ABC Darwin and 783 Alice Springs.
And I think we've got a fella today who's done plenty of living in his short life. Some of you might have been hearing lots of talk in the news this week about the surge in nationalism in Australia and questions being asked about what Australia Day means. Well, for the fella we're talking to today, the bright side of Australia Day, you'll meet a local hero who was given a crown on Australia Day as a local hero for the Northern Territory. He was formerly a Bangladeshi and he's still got that running through his veins. He was honoured for trying to promote harmony between Muslims and people of other faiths in his adopted country. His name's Chowdhury Sadaruddin, and you're going to meet him after this.
Congratulations, Chowdhury. We'd love to hear from you.
So first of all, thank you very much. I didn't expect it, honestly speaking. We came to Australia 12 years ago almost, and Darwin 10 years ago. All these things, whatever I have done, it just came as normal. I never thought that I'm doing something special. But back in my mind, I always thought that there should be a way of caring for people, whether he is a Muslim or non-Muslim, whatever way, whatever. And that's what I did, whether it is with the Darwin Muslim community or the Bangladeshi community or the Port Welfare Center. Whenever it came in front of me, I tried to do my best. With this honor and the award, probably I have to be more responsible for whatever I'm doing now, and I will try to do that. The person who nominated me, he requested me not to name him, that's why I'm not disclosing it. But I never thought that somebody will be nominating me for such an award. He actually watched me so closely, and I never thought that he is watching me so closely. He's not from my community, I mean Muslim community. He's not a Bangladeshi or from subcontinent. That's all I can say. So I like to thank him wherever he is now. I also like to thank my family, especially my wife Nurun and my son Ismail. If anybody has sacrificed anything, is this too. All those weekends I spent attending meetings or doing something somewhere, this time has been taken from their share. So thank you very much for all your support, and thank you all for giving me this honor. I will try my best in future to make Australia, and thank you, Australia.
Chowdhury, congratulations once again, and thank you, Administrator.
His first musical selection on 105.7 ABC Darwin and 783 in Alice Springs.
message in a bottle. Oh, message in a bottle. Message in a bottle. Walked out this morning, don't believe what I saw. 100 billion bottles washed up on the shore. Seems I've never known it being alone. 100 billion castaways looking for a home. I'll send an SOS to the world. I'll send an SOS to the world. I hope that someone gets mine. I hope that someone gets mine. I hope that someone gets mine. Message in a bottle, yeah. Message in a bottle. Message in a bottle. Message in a bottle. Send it out an SOS. Send it out an SOS. I'm sending out an SOS. I'm sending out an SOS. 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 Sending out an SOS.
And ABC Live.
It's the Australia Day long weekend, and across the country we're all celebrating in our own way. For me, it's the first time in 11 years that I'm not standing proudly on the cricket field for the annual one-dayer. I've had the privilege and the honour of representing our country on the sporting arena. And now, I'm thrilled to be given the opportunity to chair the National Australia Day Council. The Australian of the Year Awards recognise people in our community who go above and beyond, giving themselves selflessly and continually to our community, our nation and our world. In its 50-year history, the awards have recognised many great Australians, and over the next hour we're going to meet our 4 recipients for 2009.
Hello and welcome to this exclusive presentation of the Australian of the Year Awards on 9 in 2009. At the outset, I would like to acknowledge the Ngambri and the Ngunnawal people who are the custodians of the land on which we gather today. I acknowledge their traditional wisdom and living culture.
For the last 5 decades, the Australian of the Year Awards have recognised outstanding citizens spanning our great and diverse country, people who go above and beyond for their cause, their community and our world.
During the awards history, we have been inspired by the work of those honoured who come from all walks of life, from household names to unsung heroes, and this year is no different.
It certainly isn't. And to announce the national recipients in the 4 categories, it is our pleasure to welcome once again this year the Prime Minister, Mr Kevin Rudd.
I don't think I need to say Happy Australia Day. You seem very happy already. Can I say this to Australians one and all? Let's acknowledge the first Australians on whose land we meet and whose cultures we honour and celebrate as the oldest continuing cultures in human history. think about that for just a moment, the oldest continuing cultures in human history. Our deep link with deep antiquity, and we uniquely in Australia have the opportunity to share that heritage with our Aboriginal brothers and sisters. What a great privilege it is for all Australians. I was told recently that in the traditional welcome to country, in many parts of the country, the welcome translates a bit like this. The welcome says, "We offer you the fruits of our land for all that you need to live." The food, the water, the berries, all that you need to live. We have much to learn from that intrinsic spirit of generosity and welcome. As a kid growing up in a country town in Australia, I remember in that small country town of 100 or 200 people, a similar spirit of generosity when people came to the town for the first time or when some left. That spirit was there which said, "What's ours is yours, because you're part of our community." And you know something? It's drawing on that great spirit and those great qualities, those great Australian qualities, which we will need all to draw on in the year ahead. These deep Australian qualities, qualities of courage, qualities of resilience, and qualities of compassion. These are great Australian values, and you see them writ large in Australian heroes past, Australian heroes today, and those of tomorrow. We see them in our volunteers, those out there fighting fires as we speak. We see them in our troops in the field in Afghanistan, standing in the line of duty. We see it in those who staff our hospitals and care for the sick and the dying. These are great Australian values. And we see them also writ large in the lives of those whom we will honour in just a moment. Those who've become finalists in this great Australian of the Year contest. In the year ahead, my message is simple. It will be tough, but if we as a country draw deep and extend out the hand of support and friendship to those who need it, then we as Australians and as a nation will come through. To all of you gathered here in the nation's capital, to all of you participating in the great celebration that is Australia Day, can I say this? This great nation recognises that we are all in this together. The challenges which lie ahead, we are all in this together. Businesses, unions, Indigenous Australians, non-Indigenous Australians, those from diverse communities, governments at all levels, federal, state and local. Whatever the world throws at us in this year ahead, remember this core truth. We are all in this together, and together we will come through this year more resilient than we have been even in the past. Happy Australia Day.
All right, let's get going. Our first award tonight is Australia's Local Hero, acknowledging people who are making a real difference in their community, the real heart of our country.
And at this point, we acknowledge Jonathan Welsh, Australia's Local Hero for 2008, as he hands the baton to one of the state finalists gathered here tonight.
Australia's Local Hero. From New South Wales, Dr. Jamari Reefy.
From Victoria, Beverly Wall.
From Queensland, Cyril Golding.
From Western Australia, Graham Drew.
From South Australia, Beverly Langley.
From Tasmania, John Leighton Hodgetts.
From the ACT, Tim Gable.
And from the Northern Territory, Chowdhury Sadarudan.
On ABC Local Radio around the Northern Territory. It's the Police, who just last year wrapped up a big world tour, 10 past 11. Hope your Friday's going well. Let's get into the guest room for another day. Today we're going to meet a man who, in Australia Day Awards, picked up recognition as a local hero. And yet this isn't the country of his birth. He's originally a Bangladeshi, now Australian. And, Chaudhry Sadaruddin has been honoured for his work in trying to promote harmony between Muslim and non-Muslim Australia, and he's got some big dreams for the future. Talking to him today, I'm also looking forward to finding out a bit more about Bangladesh. It rarely makes the news for good reasons. Sometimes it's politics, most often disaster and famine. But I'm sure that there is an incredible heart beneath the stories that we see. Let's find out. Chaudhry Sadaruddin, good morning to you and welcome to the guest room.
Good morning, Leon, and good morning, Darwin.
How did you feel when you were told that you were going to be recognised as a local hero for the Northern Territory, Chaudhry?
It was a shock for me because I didn't know that I was nominated as a local hero. The person who nominated me, he didn't told me that he nominated me, and I got a phone call from the National Australia Day Council that I'm the finalist. That's the first time I came to know that I have been nominated. So it was a shock, and I didn't believe. I was thinking that it was a prank, So later on I found that I was nominated. So it was a shock. I was overwhelmed with joy, definitely.
And what was your family, the response like in your family at the news?
I didn't tell them, after getting the phone call. Actually, I came out, and I was in my car, and this phone call came on my mobile phone. So I thought that it might be a prank. So I said, "Can I give you a call?" So I went back inside the home and gave them a call, and just to find out that it's not a prank. And then also I was not sure that what is happening. So. Then I checked out with the guy who nominated me, and then I told my family that this is what is happening, and they were also very, very happy and honoured.
What happens when you're a local hero acknowledged for Australia Day? I understand there's an opportunity to meet Kevin Rudd in all of that, and that you decided to dress Darwin style.
Yes, when we went to lodge, I thought that how I can, show a little bit of what Territory can do. So I was wearing a half-sleeve shirt, though it was a little bit cold for a Territorian. And when we were shaking hand with the Prime Minister, I just told him that from my dress you can guess that I'm from Territory, Darwin. And he said, "You like to take my jacket? I can offer it to you." I said, "No, thank you, Prime Minister. I'm okay." So Therese, Prime Minister's wife, was smiling also beside him, it was pretty good, So we went inside and had tea and had a little bit of chat about whatever we do, in Darwin. So it is quite good.
Well, we're having a chat now, and over the course of the next 50 minutes or so, I'm looking forward to finding out about your plans, not just for Darwin, but for the Northern Territory as well. But first, when we decided that we wanted to speak to you and you accepted our offer, I thought, what a fantastic chance to learn more about Bangladesh. As I said in my introduction, so often we hear about Bangladesh in the context of natural disaster, although it's also the sort of bizarre political system that you've had operating there now for a decade or two, where you swap leadership, it would seem, between two ladies known as, the Begums, and then, of course, the army having recently taken over. Tell us about the country of birth. Introduce us to it. What is Bangladesh?
Bangladesh was part of Greater India once upon a time, and then when the British left, they divided the country into two, Pakistan and India.
So this is 1947?
1945, actually, when they decided to divide it into two parts based on religion. And Greater Bengal was divided into two Bengal. One was West Bengal and East Bengal. And then East Bengal became East Pakistan, and West Bengal become part of India, which is the capital is Calcutta. And the Pakistan, West Pakistan, is the present Pakistan. And only commonality between Bangladesh, East Pakistan and West Pakistan, was the religion, nothing else. Our language was different. Our food habit, our culture, our songs, everything was different. So this two country was formed, so it was not working right from the beginning. And first problem happened when Pakistan declared that Pakistani language, which is Urdu, will be the national language of Pakistan. And our students in 1952, and they were very unhappy about it. and they start protesting. And 21st of February, quite a few of them were killed by the police and the law enforcement authority. And that 21st of February is now considered as the language day of the world. It has been declared by United Nations as Language Day because that was the first time in the world a country fought for language. And that started and slowly turned into a liberation war in 1971, and Bangladesh was formed as a new country, Bangladesh. So that is the starting of Bangladesh, but it has got a very rich tradition and culture, 5,000 years old, and it's very, it's a one country. People talk same language.
What is the national language of Bangladesh?
Bengali. Bengali is the national language of Bangladesh. 150 million people lives in there. After 71, since now the country economically is doing very, very good. I'm very happy about that. Young generations are doing very good. As a result, at average, GDP is growing like 5% every year. But politically, as you said, there are a lot of turmoils, but it's maturing slowly, and which is very good to see that it's maturing. And but still, as like any other subcontinent country, the people are not getting out of the family, dynasty sort of politics, and as a result, both party has got two leader. One is the widow of the ex-president, and another one is the daughter of ex-president, the founder of Bangladesh, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. She is now the current prime minister. So hopefully after them, probably the next dynasty, the next generation of politicians will be better. And the democracy is working. The last election was really fair and very, very good. And
what's the corruption like? The corruption that we associate with elements of life in India and in Pakistan?
Yes, Bangladesh. It's not very good thing to see that Bangladesh was considered to be most corrupt country in the world in 3 years at a row. This is by Transparency International. And personally, I migrated to Australia. One of the reasons was that part of Bangladesh. I was a marine engineer. I used to sail on board ships. My wife used to sail with me. Then my first son, he born, and then we decided to settle in shore, and I got a good job in Chittagong. And I was not used to that sort of life because right from my school life, I went on board ships with the British and the Irish, and I worked with different nationalities. So it was a shock for me, and I couldn't take it. The corruption related, to the atmosphere of shipping, even, And I was losing all my, good understanding of the seniors working in that same field. And then I talked to my wife that two options: I can go back to sea, and you will not see me for 6 months every year. Other one is migrate to some other country. And we had three choices: Canada, UK, and Australia. And I choose to come to Australia.
Can I get you to just get a little bit closer to that microphone for us, if you wouldn't mind, Chowdhury, so that we can hear you nice and clear, booming out across the Northern Territory on the guest room this morning on 105.7 ABC Darwin and 783 in Alice Springs. It's coming up now to 18 past 11. My guest, Chowdhury Sadaruddin, who is a local hero in the Australia Day Awards for the Northern Territory, and a very proud one, I detect, as well. Chowdhury, why did you decide on Australia? This good feeling, it had to be more than that, surely.
Two things. Number one is I have been to 38 countries all over the world. I did a study, went to actually UK for a study and Ireland for a study, so I was there for quite a while. Compared to other countries, if you look at Australia, the multicultural atmosphere of Australia is quite good. I have got a lot of experience living in Singapore also, so there is a chance of Australia getting into that sort of path. Also, Australia, if you look at the future of Australia and the social structure of Australia, it has got a great potentiality for future. This country is really, really lucky country. Quite often, as Australian, we don't realize how lucky we are. We have got everything. You talk about resource, or you talk about livestock, you talk about any food or anything. If we are blocked by the whole world and isolated by the whole world, even we can survive. Not many countries in the world is like that. So with all those information in my mind, I thought that for the next generation, this should be the best country to go.
And obviously the rest of the family agreed. Your wife, your son,
Yes, my
decided
wife.
that it was worth following you.
My wife was my son was very young at the time. He was only 1 year old, less than 1 year actually. But my wife actually, she also traveled with me quite a lot, and she has got quite a good understanding of the world, So she agreed with me also.
Describe life as a boy growing up in Bangladesh. What sort of a place did you live in there?
Okay, I actually grew up until class 8, year 8, in a city called Rajshahi, which is very near to River Ganges, which is becoming Padma. So I grew up on the bank of Padma, which is Ganges actually. Ganges, when it is coming into Bangladesh, is becoming Padma. I was brought up in an area which is dominated by the Christian community. My first teacher was a Christian. I used to go to the church with the teacher. My father, mother never, and I used to love the sweets the father used to give me during the Sunday sermons. I went to a Catholic school. My first school was a Catholic school, and all the nuns and they used to operate that school. And it was a fantastic atmosphere, being a Muslim, Muslim-dominated country and living in a Christian area. I had a very good understanding of other faith also. We had got lots of Hindus around that area.
So no ethnic or religious tension in your community?
Never. I have never seen when I grew up. Actually, we used to celebrate all our celebration. Like I used to love all those cakes on Christmas because all my Christian friends used to share all those with us, and they used to love our Eid celebration. They used to come to our place and enjoy the Eid celebration. So it was fantastic.
Wow, it sounds like not a bad life at all. What did your father do for a job?
He was a government employee. He used to work in the income tax of Bangladesh. He was Deputy Commissioner of Income Tax at the time. Yeah.
So you were pretty well off relative to how we understand many people in Bangladesh living.
I should not say well off, but we are doing quite okay. We are middle class, not upper middle class, maybe middle class. You can define us as.
If there's 150 million Bangladeshis, why aren't you better at cricket, Chowdhury?
Number one is we didn't have any infrastructure. Okay, people used to play cricket. It's not like Australia. Even in Darwin, my son used to go to Palmerston Cricket Club, and I've seen the structure for 120,000 people living in Northern Territory and in Darwin. I mean, we have got a fantastic structure. You cannot imagine that sort of a structure in a country like Bangladesh. Basically, Bangladesh doesn't have the money or the resource to support that sort of a structure. So it's very difficult to, take young generation into cricket. This is the one point. Another point is, if anybody has got a son, he will prefer the son to be a lawyer or a doctor or something, and earn good living. Cricket is not a good living, that's another problem. So it's a two-side problem. But it's Bangladesh is getting out of it now. The new cricketers, they are earning quite a bit of money. They're getting famous in the world, and people are becoming interested. So it will be changing. You'll see within the next 5 years.
Oh, righto, Bangladesh on the rise. I don't doubt it. It makes that argument makes a lot of sense, and of course for world cricket, I think. A lot of sense too for the health of the game. Look, it's 24 past 11. You're on 105.7 ABC Darwin, 783 in Alice Springs. I like your musical selections today, Chowdhury. We're going to listen to Brothers in Arms by Dire Straits. I'm sorry for people on whom rain is falling at the moment. A lovely song to listen to. Why have you chosen it for us?
A lot of conflicts in the world, and this song is in that way. It's such a beautiful song, to listen and understand, what is happening in the world, So that's why. And when I was young, we didn't had the facilities in Bangladesh to listen to this type of song, because we have only one FM radio which used to run only one day for half an hour, and it struck me when I listened to this song.
mist-covered mountains are a home now for me. But my home is the lowlands, and always will be. Someday you'll return to your valleys and your farms, and you'll no longer burn to be brothers in arms. Through these fields of destruction, baptisms of fire, I've witnessed your suffering as the battle reached high. And though it had hurt me so bad, in the fear and alarm, you did not desert me, my brothers in arms. There's so many different worlds, so many different suns, and we have just one world, but we live in different ones. Now the sun's gone to hell, and the moon's riding high. Let me bid you farewell. Every man has to die, but it's written in the stars. In every line in your palm, we're fools to make war on our brothers in arms.
Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms. On 105.7 ABC Darwin, 783 in Alice Springs for Chowdhury Satarudan in the guest room this morning.
You've had a big day at work. Dinner's gone down a treat and it's time to chill out on the veranda. Hi, I'm Melanie Tate and I hope you'll be chilling out with me because I have a big 2009 planned for Territory Evenings. Not only will there be the great music you're used to, but we'll be talking with everyone from musos to ghost poets. What's a ghost poet? Well, you'll have to tune in next week from 7 to find out.
Territory Evenings with Melanie Tate starts next week on 105.7 ABC Darwin.
Yes, the new evenings presenter taking you forward into 2009. Mel Tate in the chair. She's a fascinating woman. You'll get to start meeting her from this coming Monday. Look, we've just been getting some information through at the minute. The Victoria Highway going to close again at the Victoria River Bridge, 200 kilometres west of Katherine. It's to be closed shortly. You'd imagine something to do with water levels and the rain around the top end of the Northern Territory at the moment. We'll give you more details as they come to hand. But that would be news of and information that would be pretty interesting to quite a number of people planning to get some miles under the wheels across the course of the day. Our guest in the guest room, Chowdhury Satarudan, telling us his story about how he left Bangladesh, came to Australia and has gone on to become an Australia Day hero. And the excitement, I suppose, that caused not just he, but also his family as well. Chowdhury, something very interesting about you that I want to probe, sort of a little bit personal, but fascinating to many people. Arranged marriage and the fact that you had one, and that, you know, when you meet, I'm sure people like me, they must have 1,000 questions to ask about what it's like, how it goes, and how it's worked for you.
Yeah, my marriage was an arranged marriage, actually. But
are
my
people
wife
allowed
is,
to pry, Chowdhury? Does it get annoying, or are we allowed to pry?
Yeah, it's all right, you know, it's in certain way. My wife is 7 years younger than me. My father-in-law was a very good friend of my father. Okay, and when my wife was born, actually, we went to my father-in-law's house to see. I can still remember that the newborn baby, you know. And at that time, we never knew that we'll be getting married. And since then, we were living in a small city called Rajshahi, and she was growing up over there. And then we split, and we went to Dhaka, and the capital city of Bangladesh, and they went to another city called Rangpur, extreme north, very near from Himalayas, the Everest. And she was growing up over there, and I was growing up in Dhaka. And then one of our uncle actually arranged the marriage. And since then, we're living happily. So,
but you, in fact, knew her in one way or another across the course of your younger life.
Yes, I knew her when we were young, but but we didn't have any relationship as such. But when the family was arranging the marriage, there are certain good part about arranged marriage, and in a country like Bangladesh, because all the wisdom and the experience of the older generation, they choose bride and groom from similar sorts of families with similar sorts of values, and so there should not be any conflict and all those things. And they do give more importance into the family, father, mother, grandfather, and how the groom and bride has been grown up, so they can match together. And another thing is good about arranged marriages, both of us didn't have any expectation, zero expectation, and we tried every day to be good to each other. And whatever I get from her, whatever she gets from me is always positive. But if we knew each other, and it could be other way around, then she could say that when we were lovers or boyfriend and girlfriend, you were so good. Now we are married, and you are not like before. So whatever you have done is only pretending. So it could be both way around, So it worked well for me, and I hope that it is also working well for others, who got married in this way.
Wow! And now that you have a son, will it be difficult for you, given that is your sort of cultural background? I mean, how will you think about his forming relationships?
He's free, I don't have any problem. Even my father and mother didn't have any problem with me. If I had somebody, and if I told my father that I like to get married to this certain girl, he would not mind. So same with me, So if he comes up with somebody, I would not mind. Of course, I will advise him with all my wisdom about married life. It's always a lot of at the end of the day, living with anyone, you have to sacrifice something to make it worth. Otherwise, it will not work.
How do Bangladeshis, when they look at the Western world, understand our divorce rate of close to 50%?
Probably two reasons. One is, as I said, the way they look at it is that too much of free mixing is one problem. So the charm of living together totally gone, and that's why people like to experiment, and that's create problem in the society. Number two is individualism is so high that sharing something and getting out of the comfort zone, whatever you are in, become very difficult when you are becoming used to that individual lifestyle in a Western world. In a subcontinent which is changing, also getting into that path, and the divorce rate is also increasing. We used to live in joint families with grandmother, grandfather, uncles, and the individual feelings were always sacrificed for the total family, and that's the way we raised up. And now it is. So that is another thing which Bangladesh is, probably think that is the reason behind divorce. Because as I said, a successful married life, always you have to have in mind that you have to sacrifice something to make it working.
It's interesting you make that point, because it suggests that for Pakistan and for Bangladesh and for India as well, as it is for China, to make that transition into the first world, into being what we call, a first world country, the aspiration for fridges and cars and televisions and accommodation of your own all seems to be inexorably tied in with that. And it will mean that there are massive social shifts to come if that is in fact what large swathes of those communities decide that's what they want for themselves.
Most of the time, in my case, what you were telling, Leon, is true. But in my case, it was different. I used to work on board ships, and I have seen that people are working on board ship, earning very good living and having a very good life in Bangladesh, because the living standard and living cost is very low over there. But the problem is this: the whole family is depending on one person who is the income earner. And if something happened to that person, and I've got first-hand experience of seeing that, one master mariner, he died from an accident, and I've seen the family from a very high standard of living just gone down into the bottom of the ladder very, very soon, because it's very difficult for a housewife to get a job and get that sort of money what a master mariner is earning. And there is no pension scheme, life insurance, and all those sort of thing in Bangladesh. So the social security of the family is in stake, and many people consider that problem. The other problem is the environmental issue. The greenhouse effect and everything is creating problem for Bangladesh. Bangladesh will be underwater. 2/3 of Bangladesh will be underwater within the next 50 years. So that is a prediction. So 150 million people, where they will be going. Last week I was reading a beautiful article written on Sydney Morning Herald by one of the Bangladeshi doctor living in Sydney, and he was arguing about it, that whether there should be some sort of obligation in the Western world, that the problem has been created by them, and what they will be doing about all these people living in these countries like Bangladesh, Maldives, and other countries.
It was interesting to see the Maldivians say, "We'd like somebody to offer us an island where there's not too many of us. Can we come to somewhere, maybe off the coast of Australia, where we get offered an island so that we can start our country somewhere else?"
Yeah, Maldives is a small country, but think about Bangladesh, 150 million people living in that country, and has got highest number of population living in per square mile. more than 1,000 people living in Bangladesh per square mile. In India, closest is 300, so 3 times more than India. That is the highest in the world. And if 2/3 of that country goes underwater, where these people will be going? So I don't know. And the whole world need to be proactive rather than just stay back and watch and to be reactive. So this is one reason why people are always worried. So for the next generation, like me, I was also worried for my next generation, not for myself, because as I said, the amount of money I was earning from a ship, my living standard was better than what I'm living over here in Bangladesh, because the living cost over there is quite low. So it's not always the same thing,
It'll be very interesting to see what happens in Bangladesh's case, because you're right, the thought of 150 million people being compelled to move somewhere else is well, it's going to cause friction, whatever solution is generated. Let's talk about your passage to Australia and your decisions once you got here. You didn't, in fact, set down in Darwin. You started in one of the eastern states, I think, and then to Darwin.
Yeah, actually, we started in Sydney. The only reason behind coming to Sydney was my sister came before me, and they were living in here, so we came to Sydney. But we moved to Darwin not because of Darwin or whatever. We moved Darwin. The simple reason was I got a better job and went to Darwin. But with the job, I put a condition that first chance I get, I will come back to Sydney. Then within 1 year, we became so used to the lifestyle of Darwin, especially the layback lifestyle, and the Territorian, their big heart and big smile and easygoing life. You can talk to anybody anywhere, which is missing, especially in the other part of Australia. So my wife started loving it, I started loving it, and we are still living in there for last 10 years. And we got probably 3 chances to go back to Sydney. My office offered me 3 times to go to Sydney, 1 time to Canberra, and we just declined. No, we like to stay in Darwin.
So it sounds like you're here for a while, Chowdhury. It sounds like you're here for a while.
Sounds like that.
As a practicing Muslim in the top end of the Northern Territory, I mean, we've had other practicing Muslims in the guest room before. I think Satay Bobby is one that springs to mind. A couple of other visitors to the NT as well. How do you find it here in terms of educating your kids in Islam, amongst other things?
Better than other place in Australia probably, but the Muslims in Darwin is sort of invisible because they are quite well blend into the society. If you look at other states, the Muslims are becoming a little bit isolated from the rest of Australia, which is not very good, and that's another thing what I like about Darwin. The Muslims are living all over Darwin. They're not living in a particular area or particular suburb or anything like that. So, which is very good, and there is a very good feeling about the Muslim community and the large community in Darwin. Also, we never had any conflict. Our mosque never had any conflict with anyone. We always arrange this, Islamic Awareness Week. We have a lot of participation in the week. We get lots of support from the government to arrange all those things. Our imam goes to different schools to give lectures. But as for as you ask about the education and other things, we are trying our best to give religious education in the mosque. But we have got system like Catholic school, which is quite a few Catholic schools are operating in Catholic and other church-based school operating in Darwin and rest of Australia. We have got exactly similar sort of school in Sydney. In fact, one of the best school in Australia is Islamic school called Malik Fahad School of Sydney, which is considered to be the 3rd best school in Sydney.
Well, in terms of the results it gets from the kids finishing Year 12.
Year 12, yeah. Fantastic result they do every year. And that school has got probably more than 3,500 students in the waiting list to get into that school. That school is similar like any other religious school. One thing good about religious school is that religion as a whole, if you look at religion, the civilization has been benefited by religion so much because of the built-in moral values in religion, and every religion has got similar moral value, almost same moral values built into the religion. Don't speak lie, don't hurt your neighbors, blah blah blah, lots of things, And these things, if you can build into the education system, it should be always bringing positive thing into the society. For the Muslims, rather than getting brainwashed by some radical ideology, if you can give them a controlled environment to grow up with a good moral value and become a good Australian, is always better than doing nothing. So that's why probably in Northern Territory, one Islamic school could be very good for the Muslim. But the problem with Northern Territory, we don't have the numbers to run Islamic schools. So the thought came that, what about running an Islamic school which would be international, and we can attract our neighbors like Indonesians and the Malaysians and the Brunei, so they can come and start their school life over here. Then and there should be an arrangement with the CDU, so they can finish their undergraduate, and they can be. So that sort of thing has got quite a bit of demand into the neighbouring countries also.
So you
that's
could
the
have
feedback.
you could establish an Islamic school in Darwin or Palmerston, and have students come from other parts of our near neighbourhood to study there.
Yeah, exactly. And they can then there should be an arrangement to go to the university, and they can finish their undergraduate degree and master's degrees and other things. So which could be very good, and that's sort of the feedback we get from our politicians, actually the ministers, and they are also getting a lot of interest from the neighbouring country, and they are also asking for the similar sort of thing. In fact, there is an application already for Islamic school in the ministry, actually, and we are now going through the registration process, preparing the registration application.
If I remember correctly, there have been other parts of the country where communities say, "Oh, gee, we don't want an Islamic school or a school for Muslims in our neighbourhood."
Yeah, I understand. One of the greatest problem of human being is the fear of unknown. And this is both sides story. Fear of unknown start because you are not opening yourself up, so other party doesn't know that what you are doing. So if you are open and honest, and everybody can see, transparent, everybody can see what is you are doing, what the benefit you are bringing in, then there should not be any fear of unknown. And this fear of unknown is always used by the politicians all over the history, and that has been used to do massacre in the world, and that is the thing which we have to stop. And that is the thing what makes people think that there's something evil is going on, or something, some problem is going on. So from our side, we have to be open and transparent about it, so other side can see that there is that element of fear of unknown is not there.
I think one of the reasons that perhaps Islam is so well received in the Northern Territory, particularly, or holds few fears, is because we associate it with our near neighbours in Indonesia, a successful, stable, or relatively stable democracy over time, and a place that we look on with an amount of fondness, rather than in Sydney they look to perhaps the Middle East as their example, and fear and have more anxiety as a result of that.
You're very much right about that. So like, as for example, if my neighbor is coming to my house, my son is going to their house, their son is coming to my house, everything is open and everything become normal, and which is happening in Darwin, and that should be encouraged. But if I close my door, nobody is coming in, and definitely people will be suspicious what is going on in here. So that's why both party has got a responsibility to get out of that fear, and as because Darwin is very near to Indonesia, that is what is happening. It's not happening in Sydney and other places. You're right about that.
What other ambitions do you have for your time in the Northern Territory, Chowdhury?
Now I'm working actually in three. Though I was nominated, and whatever has been told about me or introduced about me as a Muslim leader or something like that. One thing I like to make clear that I am not a religious leader or anything like that. I'm an Australian who is a Muslim, as like any other Christian or Jews or Hindu Australian. I always try to do best to my family, to my neighbors, to my community. Only difference is probably that I was lucky to be picked up for this award. So I work in three different areas actually, and I don't do it to get something or whatever. Whenever it comes in front of me, I just do it. Like I work for the Port Welfare Committee in East Town with one of Darwin's figure, Brian Manning. He is the chairman of that committee. We formed that committee, and under that committee now established a small center inside the Eastern Port, which is operating now. We provide free internet service to all the seafarer coming to Darwin Port, and telephone service, small cafeteria, pool table. Now we are trying to get a 12-seater bus, so we can give a regular trip couple of times every day from Eastern Port to the city, so the seafarer coming in Darwin Port, they can get some support. So I also heavily involved with that.
So you know what it's like, of course, to pull into different ports on other sides of the world, not know much about where you've actually landed beyond the gates of the port.
Exactly, and that's why I'm involved with that for last 4 years, and we are doing very good with that, and it's progressing very well. So that is one forum I work with. Another forum I work with, and my ambition with that is that will be growing, and we'll be having sort of a rest place over there, like a motel or something. So if somebody is signing off or signing on to a ship, they will have a rest place over there. So that is one forum. Another is working with the Bangladeshi community. When I moved into Darwin, first 2 years we had cultural program which we used to do in front of 350 guests, mainly mainstream Australians, and we used to show a little bit of our rich culture from Bangladesh, 5,000 years old culture, which is stopped unfortunately because the number of Bangladeshi living in Darwin could not continue that sort of big event. At that time we had only 9 families living in Darwin. Now we have got more than probably 22 families now living in Darwin. I'm a Bangladeshi family, so I'm trying to again do something in that forum, so we can start that sort of thing again in Darwin. And with the Islamic community, we are trying to build a community hall and community center in Palmerston, which will cater, the openness of the Islamic community and the rest of the community. So we can arrange barbecues, or we'll have a library and a playing place, so everybody our kids can mix up with other, like table tennis and volleyballs and that sort of ideology, and we are working on that also. So that is going very good. Northern Territory government has already promised us for a land, and hopefully in next 5 years we'll be building something over there.
It doesn't sound like you're going to be going back to the sea anytime soon.
No, actually, at present I'm working with the Commonwealth government as a marine surveyor. So it's a regulatory function, so it doesn't require to go back to sea anymore. So I'm very much comfortable with the job, and I love what I do. So I'm enjoying the job also.
What was the biggest storm that you were ever in when you're at sea, Chaudhry?
Okay, this was a typhoon, and we went through the eye. This happened when I was a 5th engineer on board a ship called Bangladeshi. It was a 15,000-ton ship. The captain was recently promoted, so the ship was leaving from Japan and going to Hong Kong. And the captain thought the ship was quite powerful. It had 19,000 horsepower engine, so the captain thought he has got enough speed and he can beat the typhoon before it reached the place. But these are very powerful. Nature is very powerful, and the captain didn't have that wisdom and the experience. So we end up getting into the eye of the typhoon. But eventually we get out of that eye. But I can still remember the captain was writing, verses of Quran. He was a Muslim captain, verses of Quran in small pieces of papers and throwing them into the sea. So it's quite wonderful to see that when human beings get into that type of situation, they just surrender to the.
I'd want him at the controls, just concentrating very hard. I'd be getting nervous if he was starting to recite from the Quran. That'd be
yes.
So did you think you were done for?
Yeah. So we end up in Hong Kong. Lots of surveys and insurance companies and other people turn up to check the ship because everybody knew that it went through the storm.
Wow. Well, that sounds absolutely incredible. Sorry, my thumb's fallen on a button there. Chaudhry, we've got to leave it there. It's been great to have you in the guest room this morning. Thank you very much for joining us and sharing part of your story.
It's my pleasure, Len.
Chaudhry Sadaruddin, one of our local heroes in the Australian of the Year awards held earlier in this week. You're on 105.7 ABC Darwin, 783 in Alice Springs. Andrew Collins not far away with the Country Hour. Let's hear a little bit of Elton John between here and there.
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. I'm not one of those who can easily hide. I don't have much money, but boy, if I did, I'd buy a big house where we both could live. If I was a sculptor, but then again, no, or a man who makes potions in a traveling show. I know it's not much, but it's the best I can do. My gift is my song, and this one's for you. And you can tell everybody this is your song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's done, I hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind that I put down in the words how wonderful life is while you're in the world. I sat on the roof and kicked out the moss. Well, a few of the verses, well, they've got me quite cross, but the sun's been quite kind while I wrote this song. It's for people like you that keep it turned on. So excuse me for getting, but these things I do, you see, I've forgotten if they're green or they're blue. Anyway, the thing is, what I really need, those are the sweetest guys I've ever seen. And you can tell everybody this is the song. It may be quite simple, but now that it's done, I hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind what I put down in the words. How wonderful life is while you're in the world.
Elton John on ABC Local Radio.